Justice for all.
Does anyone have any adjustments to the agenda? Hearing none, I would like to move on to introductions. And if we could start down to my left, all the way down to the end, please.
My name is David Clark. I represent Westminster on Union High School Board.
John Broadley, Principal.
Hi, Margot Gia, Rockingham Representative.
Hi there, Jason Terry, Rockingham.
Wendy Clark is Rockingham.
Molly Bannock, Westminster.
Andy Haas, Superintendent.
June Streeter, Westminster.
Priscilla Lambert, I represent Rockingham.
Jim Bazina, Finance.
Thank you, everyone. We are now moving to communication and public comments. We have a microphone set up right there. You have to hit the bottom of it to get it to turn on. Would anyone like to speak?
I will.
We're going to give you about 2 minutes. We're going to come help you.
So 16 years ago, I walked through these doors as a freshman. Mr. Broadley was at the time a math teacher. I was struggling with math really hard. He helped me slowly learn to get it, but I never did. Sophomore year, he became assistant principal here. For those 3 years, he was the assistant principal. I have a rare autoinflammatory disease, which made me miss, I want to say, at least 100 or more days of school every year. I had special accommodations set up. He made sure those accommodations were met. I'm also now legally confirmed, legally blind. Back then, he made sure I had all the adjustments I needed so I could see in textbooks. Things were blown up, maps, anything that I needed. He allowed teachers to have me have extra time on tests, to go to different classrooms for tests. And I had a lot of bullying issues as well. He took care of that as well. There was a couple of points I wanted to give up on school. And I came into his office, I said, listen, this is getting really hard. I'm really frustrated, I want to give up. He said, Sarah, look at me. Do not give up. You hear me? We will keep going. I'm here with you. Keep fighting. And that's why I think he should keep his job and he should remain principal here at this school until he is ready to retire.
Thank you, Sarah.
Would you have people say their names when they go on their turns?
Sarah, could you just tell me your last name?
Crosby.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? Could you just introduce yourself, please?
Samantha Simons.
Thank you.
You guys will get to know me. I'm sure. Is now the time for us to be discussing our questions or concerns or about Mr.
Absolutely.
Broadley?
This is your turn. This is your
I wasn't
time.
sure if it was the time during the actual principal search that we should be, if there's a discussion session there
Nope,
or.
this is your time right now.
Okay, so I've asked this question before at least one previous board meeting, and I'm just looking to get an answer. Not sure if I'm going to. Who is responsible for making a decision to offer the principal a new contract or not offer them a new contract? So I keep asking that, or how do we get it on the agenda where we actually get to ask questions and get answers, not just ask the questions?
I think I know the answer, but I have to ask the question.
Okay.
It's you, correct?
Yes.
So
The
the
board.
So the
board hires and fires.
The superintendent makes recommendations, and then he brings them to the board.
So there was a recommendation brought to the board to not offer a contract to Mr. Broadley?
No, Mr. Broadley, the last So 2 meetings ago, I'm sorry, I don't know the date, when I got
Did the
to,
letter.
yeah, when I got to the meeting, there was a letter handed to me that Mr. Broadley had written and had brought to the superintendent's office that day.
So we'll never know if there was a planned decision by the superintendent to offer him a contract or not. Was that planned to offer him a contract? Was there ever that discussion?
That's a discussion that is personnel, and I can't have that discussion with you. The
Okay.
only one that can have that discussion with you would be Mr. Broadley, if he wants to have that conversation with you, but now is not the proper place to do it.
Okay, thank you.
Colin James?
Nice to see everybody again. It's like a few weeks ago. My question too is kind of related to what Sam said. What is I know on the agenda item B is principal, but where do we stand now? Has there been any changes? Is the board still moving forward? Can the board answer any questions as to why we are here? Because I think it's ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, can anybody say anything to that? Again, I mean, maybe personnel matters again, but I mean, I strongly have said in the past, as you all know, you guys represent us, and we deserve answers in this community.
So 6B is principal, which is principal reports. And 7A is principal search, and Mr. Haas is gonna help us with the guidelines on how that happens.
So is there going to be able to be discussion in the public at that time? Like, once you present to us, are we allowed to answer, I mean, am I allowed to ask you a question during that time?
So if you have something that you want to talk about, then really you need to send one of us an email, Andy or I, and we'll get it on the next agenda. If what I have on the agenda isn't gonna answer your questions, then let us know at the end of the meeting, and we will, I think that this is gonna answer all the questions.
Okay. But I mean, I just meant like after the presentation.
But if you wanna know why this is happening, that's nothing that we can talk about. That is personnel matter, it is nothing that can be talked about in this open forum. That is not, and we can't talk about it to you anyways. That is up to, really, it's Mr. Broadley's business. And we're not gonna stand here and, we're just not gonna do that to him. That's not respectful, and it's not the correct way to do it.
Okay.
Would anyone else like to speak? Yes. I should know your name, but I'm sorry I don't.
That's okay, I'll remind you. I'm Amanda Damaris. I'm not gonna say anything about the whole, I'm gonna say snippet of the Broadway thing, because you guys already know where I stand on that. I think even if he were a subpar principal, I think it's better than no principal, which is what I fear that we'll end up with. But I think also on the agenda, there was discussion about therapy dogs as well within the school. And so I just wanted to put in my tidbit of support for those. I have a junior who deals with anxiety, and even at home, we're not allowed to have a dog at home, but anytime that she's upset at home, she wants to see her dog. Her dog lives at Grampy's house. She can't see him all the time. She had that same connection with the dogs that are here at school. There was a day that she was having an off day, and the dog came right up to her and helped calm her down. And I had heard that there was concern about them being disruptive within the open concept building. I've heard complaints about other students being disruptive during tests taken, but I have never once heard a complaint about the dog was barking or making noise while I was trying to take a test or learn. So I'm all for the therapy dogs. I understand if there was a health concern to a mass degree, but they use them in nursing homes, they use them in hospitals. I'm all for it. So please please bring them back. I mean, I think that these kids have so much crap in their lives. A little bit of calmness and a little bit of niceness that you can get. Dogs love unconditionally. They love anyone. Let these kids have that. Let them have a good connection. That's my piece. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak in public comments?
Hi, I'm Jean Hodgson, and I just also wanted to speak to the therapy dogs. Research has shown that it does help with behavior and emotional support and socializing. So as long as the dogs are vetted and trained properly, and there's no huge asthma concerns, I think that they provide a great service to our school, and I think that we're really lucky to have them.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Okay, we're going to move on, and thank you very much. Review and approve board minutes for January 24th and January 31st. It's been brought to my attention that January 9th was tabled, but it is not with the packet, and we are not going to approve those tonight. We will get them on the next meeting. Does anyone have any corrections or comments they would like to make on these 2 evenings of minutes? Yes, Priscilla.
I would like
You need to use the mic, please.
Thank you. Yes, I'm under,
You need to use the mic, please.
I am trying to. All right. I would like to add it under the.
You gotta speak right into it, so I'm sorry, but we
Under
gotta.
the warrants, I had brought up, it's in my notes and online, my notes from that night, that I asked about the bonds and the budget as being on the Australian ballot, and that was left off there. That was during the time of the motion. Minutes. The January 24th minutes, I believe. Find it. Yeah, under the morning's articles, part B, under 7. That's online where I put down the bonds and budget the Australian ballot. And Molly answered, yes, they would, because we were making that motion at that time. So I'd like that put in there, please.
I'm sorry, but I'm trying to make sure we're getting this right for you, Priscilla. So I've got 7B, approval of articles, and you made a motion to approve the bonds.
Under the bonds, where June made the motion, under that, I asked if the bonds would be on for the Australian ballot and the budget. And you answered me yes. So it was part of that vote.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have any corrections? It doesn't look like we have any more corrections, so I'd like a motion to approve January 24th minutes with the corrections made and January 31st as written. June, do you move that?
Yes, Molly, yes.
June has made the motion to approve the minutes of January 24th as corrected and January 31st as written. I would like to make a roll call because we do have one member on the screen, and that is Deb, right? Deb, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you, Deb. Margot?
Aye.
David?
Yes, Molly. Yes, Molly.
Thank you. Jason?
Yes.
Brenda?
Yes.
June?
Yes.
Priscilla?
Yes.
The minutes are approved. The next item on our agenda is the report, is the finance report, and I'm looking for Jim.
On the front page of the financial report, you'll see towards the bottom where it says expense, 259,015. And that's what looks to be the balance on the expenditure side. Can everybody find that?
Jim, we're having a hard time hearing down here.
You gotta get right into it, Jim.
Okay, so on the title page, you'll see where it says expense. And it says 259,015. Does everybody find that? That looks what your expenditure balance is going to end up. And again, I'll say on the revenue side, which is on page 24. Does everybody find page 24?
Hold on, Jim.
Okay.
You got it?
All right.
Everybody else got it?
So on the revenue page, you're down short, 150,913. So it leaves you with a potential balance, end of the year balance of 108,102. So you're operating pretty tight with both your expense and revenues. Now, I have an asterisk next to the 108, 102. Oil will be the big one, and we're not sure where you're going to end up with oil. But it could be challenging. I think this budget is going to be very tight and challenging for us. Now, I will just have a couple of, the page numbers are on the left side of the page, and I'm looking at page 10. And it's on the left side of the page. Yes, page 10. See where it is right there? So you want page 10. Does everybody find page 10 on the left side of the page? Okay, so this state contribution is an educational grant that's given for your vocational students. So there's two pieces. There's one that goes to the Brattleboro Tech Center and one that goes to the Springfield Tech Center. Springfield Tech Center is on page 13. And that is on line 269. So it's easy to forget, you know, this happens as an expense and also as a revenue. And so it's easy to forget that you have to balance that out. So even though it shows as an expense, and you think, well, I've got nothing to encumber it, nothing to expense it, it is expensed out.
So it's gonna come up on our revenue sheet also?
Yes, correct. So I just want to point that out to you, that it's something that's easy to forget, easy to get confused with. So, I will say the only thing that I noticed on the page 1, under health services. And again, I think that what happened under health services is that should have been put into an 1101, because this is not the nursing services as the function 2331 should have been. So 2331 got thrown into the 1101, and it shouldn't have. But it doesn't change the bottom line. You're still running a tight budget. And I think we just gotta be careful, gotta be cautious in what we do and how we do it. Any questions that I can answer for you?
Jim, if that's not health service,
You gotta use the mic, please.
if that's not nurse services, what is it?
That represents, and that's on page, so that is on page 17 at the top. And I think you can see that it's substance abuse prevention. And John, do they teach that in a class?
In health, in parts of health, they would, but it wouldn't be an extra one.
So, anyway, so that's what typically should have gone into the 1101. So, it didn't.
So can I just ask the question, it says substance preventative, and then it says teacher.
Yes.
So is that part of the health teacher's salary? How does that line get in there?
That should have all gone into the 1101, and it is part of the health teacher salary, not the nurse. See, the nurse is what should have gone into that function account.
Okay. So it got coded wrong, and we're gonna fix it, but...
Yeah, but it doesn't change the bottom
I
line.
understand.
It doesn't change the difference between the expenses and revenues and what our challenge is. You still got that. So.
I have one other question. On the front of this page, written, it looks like we have paid $108,000 more for oil than...
No.
No,
That's...
Okay, help me with that.
Okay, so I'm saying right now you've got a balance which looks like you're gonna have surplus right now of $108,102.
Okay.
But I'm saying be careful. Don't get fooled, because heating oil probably will eat up some of that.
Right, okay, now I know why plus oil is on.
Yep, okay.
It's gonna warm up.
I certainly hope so.
Does anyone else have any questions for Jim?
I have a question. It's not about this, but it's about other stuff. So whenever I just don't want to miss it.
Jason, can you speak to the mic, please? We can't hear you.
I said I have a question.
So let's see if we have all of our business work done for the financial report that Jim just gave us, and then we can move on to other questions for Jim.
Thank you, Mom.
Anyone else have anything on the report they'd like to ask? It looks like nothing, Jason, so you have the floor.
Jim, I have a couple questions for you. Do we have a mechanism that you're aware of in the business office for tracking attendance for staff when they're absent from work?
We do not have one in the business office for tracking staff. There is a sub-account software, I think, that we utilize currently that will be going away.
Jim, the reason why I'm asking that for the public knowledge is year-to-date, we have spent $24,800, I believe the number is, for substitutes. And last June, we spent over $40,000 on substitute teachers. So that means that the teachers were not in the building. And I totally get they get personal days and all those types of things, but it just seems like a lot of money. And we're currently at 10, which will be on the principal's report, we're at 10% a day missing staff. So, and I did mention back in August, I believe, that I would like to incentivize teachers to be in the building. Because how else are students supposed to be taught by professionals? So that's, I'm probably gonna make a motion or add that request for next agenda officially to somehow incentivize teachers to be in the building more, so that maybe our students can be in the building more. So that was my question, and you already answered that.
I want to say, Jason, as I've been in a number of school districts, it's always a challenge. I mean, teachers have certain days that they've negotiated and contracted to have off, and I mean, it's as challenging in any other district in Vermont or New Hampshire because of the days. I mean, everybody has to have some personal time. Everybody goes to the doctor. Everybody has sick children. It's certainly challenging.
I totally agree with that, and I believe that they've earned that right. And I'm 100% on board with that, but I would just like to maybe incentivize the ones who are here without using those days. Because I think if you don't use them, at some point you stop earning them or something like that. So I would like to, maybe there's ways around it. I know we got to go to CBA and all that kind of stuff, but I think it would not be a bad idea to reward for good performance, the ones who are going to be here. My next question is, someone in the public last meeting brought up if John Broadley was mentored, and we paid the principal, the previous principal, $18,000 for that year that he was working in another school. My question to you, Jim, is have we ever recovered any employee timesheets for that principal?
I don't believe so.
So how do we know he was here?
Well, I know that Jason in payroll did some analysis of how much time he was here. He may have those timesheets.
But I'm sure if we paid him, he was here mentoring Mr. Broadley, right?
Yes.
At $18,000. And I believe the VPA average is $2,600, and for whatever reason, is negotiated at $18,000. So I don't know why, but I'm just answering the question that was brought up at the last meeting if Mr. Broadley was mentored his first year. And the answer is yes, but we don't have timesheets. Thank you, Jim.
Okay, thank you.
Priscilla?
Aye.
Jim, would you hit that screen? Okay.
Thank you. I'd like to follow up on what was just said about the substitute, because I know you have to keep track of the days and be able to print out the available days for staff all the time. So if your accounting system is going away, what are you going to use? You just said the substitute accounting was going away.
So, Priscilla, we use subs online, which is no longer going to be used, but the Infinite Visions has a component to it that will allow us to continue to use that same mechanism. So we're not throwing out, like, getting rid of something, but apparently the subs online sunsetted last year, and somehow they allowed us one more year of it, but it's going away.
Okay, I just wanted that to be clear. Thank you.
So I just think it's important that I spent quite a bit of time with Mr. Bradley on, especially on his first year. And there was a lot of conversations about the conversations that he had had with Chris and, you know, what Chris said we should do. And so I know, you know, I don't know every second of it, but I know that Chris and John spent quite a bit of time together, maybe not face to face, but it sounded like there was a lot of phone calls with a lot of questions and guidance on how things ought to be handled. So I do know that Chris was part of John's first year.
Molly, can I just add into that? Yes, I'm not sure that it was all recorded, but we met a lot. So I just got to let the public know that. Chris was there for me all the time. We met a lot, and probably wasn't one night went by that I didn't call them at like 9 o'clock at night and say, sorry, I just have one more question for you. So.
Does anyone have anything to do with finance that Jim could help us with? So, sounds like we're all done with the finance end of the report. Jim has quite a drive home, and I would like to excuse him from the rest of the meeting and thank him for coming and helping us get all our numbers straightened out. Thank you, Jim. Thank you. I'd like to move on to the principal's report. Mr. Bradley, you got the floor.
Okay, thanks, Molly. Short and sweet, 4 reasonable points though. Winter sports, we have a game going on tonight as well. Winter sports are entering the final quarter of regular season. Girls and boys basketball and indoor track. Indoor track, first of all, our students did exceptionally well. I did quote a few of them on my report. Hadley Gleim was actually first in the triple jump in our state meet, which as a sophomore, that's a remarkable achievement. Brandon Keller was second in the 55-meter hurdles, and this is a young man, I know he's been working a lot with Mr. Clark, and he's really kind of new to it this year, but he's taken off, and he's really, I think I don't want to speak for Tim, but I think he's got the will to learn and be number one. And then Riley Tuttle, it was 6th in the shot put, and there's some really good throwers right now. So that's pretty good for a young man. So, there is a full list there. If you want to go on and look at it on athletic.net, anyone can go on there and certainly get the results of the state. If you Google the state track and field meet, you'll be able to see all the individual results. Secondly, we're well into the rehearsal for our spring musical, SpongeBob the Musical. The performances begin on March 10th. There's an evening performance, that's a Friday night. And then on the Saturday, we've got a matinee and an evening performance. And yes, I managed to get another cameo role in this play. And the musical is going to give our community the long-awaited boost of this live performance by our students, for everybody, and it includes also a lot of the younger students in the community. So again, getting the sense of community back into our area and getting everybody out to feel good about what their kids are doing and what our kids are doing. Thirdly, long-awaited polychlorinated biphenyls testing. Some of you may have heard that Burlington School had a bit of a concern with those, and they actually closed it down, and now they're going to build a brand new school. Our testing begins on February 21st and 22nd during the vacation, and hopefully we'll get the results and see where we stand on those. And lastly, I'd like to recognize and congratulate Grace Warriors for acceptance into the 2023 Vermont All-State Concert Band. As a result of competitive auditions that took place on the 14th of January, Grace earned second chair trombone for the music festival. And those that were here when they performed the winter concert here a few weeks ago, boy, there's some talented people there. So that's another great achievement for one of our students. And that will take place in the first weekend of May. So that's all I've got for you. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Any questions for Mr. Bradley?
Molly, I have a question.
Go ahead, David.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, it seems like you're a long ways away.
Okay. First off, I want to say thank you, John, for my broadcasting out.
No, you gotta turn your mic on.
Can you hear me? Okay, we're on. Okay. I want to thank John for the depth of his presentation and his meeting documents. And I have a specific question for you, John. AP and dual enrollments. You may want to go into this in a little bit more depth. That's your option. AP and dual enrollment essentially serve the same purpose, which is to get high school kids college credits for coursework. And I'm very curious because back of the envelope analysis would suggest that dual enrollment's a heck of a lot cheaper than AP. And I noticed that in dual enrollment we have two offerings. One's American literature and one's 21st century writing. AP, we have 5 offerings: Calc 2, that's the count. Calculus, literature, world history, U.S. history, comparative government, and studio art. And my question to you, John, I don't necessarily need an answer tonight unless you have it right in front of you, but what offerings in AP are not available through dual enrollment?
That's a good question, Mr. Clark. I don't have the direct answer. I'll be happy to find that out for you. What I do know around dual enrollment and AP offerings, both carry college credit in certain colleges. I have found from my own student that AP seems to carry a little bit more than dual enrollment as far as some courses. And again, I'm not being biased here, I'm just using my own kiddo's example. She's at UVM, and 2 of her courses, one being world history and the other being AP human geography, earned her 9 credits at UVM, saved us some cash, and allowed her to have a very good freshman year. So, but I will get that answer for you, Mr. Clark, for our next meeting when we come back together. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Anything else for John?
I do, Mom.
Go ahead, Jason.
I have a few questions, if that's okay.
Go ahead, you got the floor.
John,
Yes.
I don't want to get scolded. I want to look at it at the same time. So
You gotta use the mic.
how long have we known each other?
Microphone. I'm not sure. Quite a while.
So I would like everyone to know that I'm a fan of Mr. Broadley on a personal level, no doubt about it. I think that anytime you want to ask Mr. Broadley a question, He's there for you. He picks up the phone and he will call you back. If you send an email, he'll email you back. But my questions are more around the four walls of this building, not who you are as a person, but as a leader of this building. So by April 15th, we have to approve the roster. Is there any plans this year, because I've talked about it the last couple of years, any plans this year to provide the board documentation or reviews on your staff, so we can approve the roster by April 15th. It's part of the union packet. So I want to know what your answer is on that.
I guess you're going to have to enlighten me a little bit more, Jason. What do you mean? Staff evaluation? Staff evaluation is going on right now. We're in a better place than we've been throughout the pandemic, because that was tough then. And I feel that certainly near April 15th we'll be in a good position to say yes or query anyone that...
Because I believe part of the collective bargaining agreement is also that if you're going to review a teacher, they need to have a copy of that review in their file. So I just want to make sure it's not a surprise to the teachers as well that you're giving a performance review.
No, the system we're using right now, the Observe for Success, one of the few good features about it is it gives, when you do either a walkthrough or a full observation, when you type up their review, it is emailed directly to them, so they see exactly what their what you've seen when you've been in their class.
Jason, I sound like a nagging mother, but you gotta get into the mic.
Thank you. Next question, John. I have stated repeatedly that I do not care what a teacher makes as far as salary. I have also stated when it was negotiations that the teachers were lagging behind in what the rest of the workforce was getting for increases on COVID. And unfortunately, they had to wait a long time for an increase. And so I just want to make sure that when I look at the numbers and I look at the salaries, because we have 23 teachers in this building that make over $70,000 a year and over 100 when you add the benefits. So that's a lot of money for the taxpayers. And again, I don't care what they make as long as they're producing quantifiable results. So I have the latest US News and World Report information. So in 2020, this school ranked 4,649. 2021, we went down to 4,955. 2022, we went to 5,612. Enrollment is about the same, averaging around 320. The student ratio was 12 to 1, then 9 to 1, now 11 to 1. And student ratio is students per teacher. Our overall score went from 73.8 to 72.2 to 68.5. So we have slipped in the rankings, and our college readiness went from 14.9 to 12.8. And again, I just want to make sure that we're giving a good solid review to the staff, that I'm in favor of making money, but I also want to make sure that they're all being held accountable to produce great
Can I
results.
say something on this real quick?
Hold on, please.
Okay.
So I just wanted to get that out there. And John, I've known you for a long time, and back in August, I fully supported you coming back, and we've had a conversation, and it's on the agenda minutes of, we asked if there was going to be a contract extension, because you were a lame duck this year, so to speak, to use a sports term. And that did not happen, and we had a conversation about the results needed to improve. Did we or did we not?
We improved both on our, first of all, I haven't seen the scores out for this year based on last year. We did improve the two main areas that they score us on are AP scores and graduation rate, and both of them have gone up considerably. So again, I'm not sure of all the other factors that go into this ranking.
So our graduation rate in 2021 was 89, and 2022 was 84%.
Well, I would question the 84%.
Okay, we can get that.
But again, I haven't looked at them, so I don't really want to be critical of it because I don't know at all.
And just lastly, could you enlighten the school board, please, on what the process is for reviewing coaches for the winter? I know what the policy is, but I was just hoping that you could enlighten us. Are they guaranteed like long-term, or how's it work for coaches?
All coaches are evaluated by our athletic director. There are surveys sent out to all kids involved in each individual sport for feedback on the coach, and if we don't have a concern, then normally we'll have that coach back. If we do have a concern, then we let them know.
Thank you. And lastly, again, I just want to say, John, that I am a fan of yours, you know, you even have mentioned that you appreciate how I keep you in check. So, you know, thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have anything for Mr. Broadley?
I do. As far as the teacher thing, I graduated in 2011. A bunch of teachers here helped me. I would have not graduated if it was not for these teachers. Two teachers honestly have passed, bless their souls, Gail Christmas and Marilee Huntoon. I also did one teacher here tonight that had Spanish, Ms. Torres. I personally thank her for helping me get through the language portion of graduation. If it wasn't for her help after school mentoring and a lot of stuff, I would not have just barely passed Spanish 1. So I think these teachers are doing an amazing job, and I'd love to give them all credit to the ones that have retired and that are going to soon retire. So I think they're doing an excellent job. Like I said, I would not have graduated without them. I would have given up, honestly.
Thank you. I'm sure there's a lot of students and alumni that feel the same way. Is there anything else for Mr. Broadley? So I'm going to move on to unfinished business, and we're going to go to the principal search. Mr. Hawes is going to give us a rundown on what we need to do.
In our last board meeting, I had provided the board with a proposed timeline, and Mr. Clark had expressed some concerns over that. So we haven't moved forward on that timeline. We'd like to get moving. What I'd like to do is bring a committee together and have that committee set forth what they're looking for as far as the timeline. I'm not sure exactly what Mr. Clark's concerns were with the proposed timeline, but we, the committee could get together and set forth a timeline. So we've advertised the position. We're starting to get applicants, so we'd like to get moving on it. But
Molly, can I respond to that?
Absolutely, I was going to ask you to.
Well, okay. I'm going to make a presumption here. It's certainly not my position to presume, but I'm doing it anyway. My presumption is that John is not going to consider his letter of intent not to seek a new contract. If in fact that comes to pass, it means we will be looking for new leadership in this school. And I'm going to be very blunt here and say that if we are going to be entertaining new leadership for this school, I think we damn well ought to decide just exactly what it is we're looking for in that leadership, and what we would like to see happen in this school. And simply going out and soliciting warm bodies does not really meet that standard in my judgment. I really think that this board needs to spend probably a whole meeting just discussing what leadership should look like. And of course, we're not the only players here. We're just the only players with a vote. And the reason I said whole meeting, Molly, is because I imagine that there would be more than a few members of the community who might actually want to weigh in on that as well. So yeah, great, okay, we can find a principal. That's wonderful. If we have to find a principal, I think we need to find a principal who comes in here with the vision, and I think we need to have an idea of what our vision is and make sure that those visions align. It's not simply hiring a warm body, it's trying to find someone who will do well at BFUHS, and obviously my bottom line is that BFUHS needs to do well by its leadership. So we got more work to do. It's not simply throwing an ad in Ed Week. Thank you, Molly.
Thank you. Trying not to be rude by talking to Andy while you were speaking, but I was trying to get a date out of him when that meeting could happen, and we have February 27th. And I hear that Deborah has her hand up.
I do. Looking at our entire district where we have now we're looking for 2 different principals in 2 different areas, and going back over the years that I've been on the board and seen a lot of the selection.
Hold on just a second, Deb. We're gonna try to turn your volume up.
Okay, I'm gonna turn mine up too, so.
Thank you.
All right. Is that any better?
That is better.
Okay, good. So look, we're now looking for 2 different principals in 2 different schools. Here we are concerned with the high school, and then there's also the middle school. And looking at over the years of the way the process has worked and the number of poor choices that have been made over time, going back all the years I've been on the board, which isn't that many, but enough to have seen quite a bit of turnover, I believe that the entire process needs to be overhauled. Some poor choices are being made by board members or the executive board members without lasting value. And I'm very concerned about how this is done. I know this is basically my last meeting with Bellows Falls Union High School, but I have great concerns that the process needs to be overhauled and make better selection processes done with better visioning by the members who are participant in that committee that will bring that information to the entire board, and the entire board needs to be a little more involved than just saying, here's the selection. That's what I have to say about it. That's saying nothing against Andy Haas or any specific member, but the shared vision of the entire grouping that brings those to them does not include all board members who will have to live with the choice that gets made. So it's important that we find that the process needs some work. Bringing it up to the 21st century, I think that we need some work, and that's all I had to say about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. I think that you and David have said the same thing, but in a different way. I think that you're both absolutely right. We need to, get together and really make out a plan and what we're looking for in that. So, I think you're still a board member on the 27th of February, so you're not out of the...
Oh yeah, you're right.
So we are going to have a meeting on the 27th, and the only thing on the agenda is going to be what we're looking for in a principal for the high school, and I'm going to recommend that everyone brings their thoughts to that so that we can get a plan set up, please. Yes, Andy's got the floor.
So one of the things we wanted to do was exactly what both Deb and David have talked about, which is doing community forums and to solicit feedback from the community and from all our stakeholders. One of the ways we also want to do it is through an electronic platform called Thought Exchange, which allows people to basically have like a cloud focus group. So we'd like to push that out. That might help inform that meeting for people who can't make that meeting, if that's okay. Basically asking just that same question, you know, of what you're looking for in a candidate.
So, let's check. Use the mic, Mama. So in that, people would be able to send things in so that you could print those all off for us when we came to that meeting?
Yeah, so the way it works is someone puts up a thought. What are you looking for in a principal? And someone might say, you know, 21st century leadership. And then people can rate that, and then they can offer more thoughts, and then we can bring all that data to the board for them to review.
Okay. David, is that what you're thinking about?
Thank you, Molly. I'm certainly willing to entertain that as a potentially useful strategy.
When I think about something like that, I think that probably teachers would be, I mean, it's a community thing where anybody can send in. And
it'd be all stakeholders,
anybody.
yes, all stakeholders.
Teachers, parents, grandparents, students. Okay. Is there any other?
And it is anonymous. I just want everyone to know that it's not.
It's not anonymous?
No, it is anonymous, so.
Any other questions about how that's going to happen? It sounds like there isn't. We're going to meet back here on the 27th. Andy will give us some guidelines when he gets things going. And how does that get out to the public so that they see that?
So we will push it out through our robocalls, through the email, but we'll also post it on our website. We will put it on Facebook, and so that'll get pushed out that way, both on the high school Facebook page, but also on the WNESU website, or Facebook page.
Thank you. Does anyone have any other questions before I move on? I'd like to move on to the therapy dog update, please.
So I just wanted to update everyone. One of the pieces that I've been looking into, and I've actually been discussing with other superintendents who have comfort dogs, as they refer to them. And most of the ones that I've been able to find that even have a program are not even in our state. But what keeps coming out is the intentionality of the program and what we're doing and what's the purpose of it. And so we've been advised even by our insurance company that we need to have a written program for how the dog is selected or the animal is selected for a comfort animal. And again, what the intentionality is around it. I mean, I agree with what Jeannie said. I think there's great use of dogs and other animals for emotional support, but we have to have a prescription for how we're taking care of it and looking into it. One school that I talked to, or one district I talked to, they actually have a whole program where they work with a trainer who picks the dog as a puppy and then raises the dog and trains the dog with the owner, who many times is a teacher in the school, before the animal's even allowed in. And there's a whole rigor that goes through the programming. And so that's the purpose of what we're trying to do. The insurance company was very clear with me that if the animal were to bite someone, and I've met one of the animals, I don't foresee that, but if the animal were to bite it, regardless of the insurance that the handler may have, the school district owns it and will be 100% responsible. So one of the things that is my charge as superintendent is the health and safety of students, and then it's protecting the institution. And so making sure we have a program in place that is going to make sure that our staff and our students are safe and healthy, but also that our institution is protected. Because if something were to happen, we have to make sure that we are covered. And so we're working with the insurance company to write a program. They said you have to have a written program for what you're doing. It can't just be bring your dog to work day. It has to come in with intention on. It has to, like, if it's coming in on Monday, why is it coming in? Who's it seeing? What's its purpose? And so that's the advice we've gotten from the insurance company, and that's the exact advice I've gotten from other districts that are running this. So we're still working through that and hoping to have something in place soon.
Thank you. So I'm gonna say this because there's a lot of people here that are very interested. It's not a no dog, we're working on making sure everything is covered because, it got brought up and then people started asking questions, and so we're just trying to make sure that we have all the paperwork we're supposed to have and be doing, the correct thing to make sure everyone is safe. And, I don't know all the dogs, but I'm pretty sure that, the owners have them under control, but it's a thing about us being able to tell the public that we've done our job, that we had to make sure that once we found out that they were here, that everything was done correctly. But I don't think I'm hearing no dogs forever. I'm hearing I gotta get things lined up right.
Yeah, I would also put it in the same realm of just how we do curriculum. We don't all of a sudden just introduce a new text without vetting it, without going through some process before we're going to just have students start reading a text. And so it's about having that process and having a program in place so that we're ensuring that basically all our I's are dotted and all our T's are crossed.
June?
Andy, do we have some kind of a timeline to tell people?
At this time, I don't. I have one more district that I was going to speak to about their programming, just to get a sense of what they're doing, and then we would have to write up a program, probably get folks together who are interested in it to weigh in on the program, and then look to writing up a program and bringing it back as a proposal. So.
Go ahead, Jim.
So they would have to be therapy dogs, certified therapy dogs?
Well, certification for a therapy dog is kind of an enigma in some ways because there's really not a lot of criteria for it. And so that's what's been challenging for me is to find out, like, if it's a service dog, there's very specific guidelines that have to happen. And when you're looking at a therapy animal, there are some where you can just go online and actually just make a purchase and you get the certificate, and then there's others that seem to be more rigorous. And so we want to make sure we've got the right type of programming so we know that the animal's trained.
Go ahead, Jim. I haven't told you to be quiet yet.
Well, I was wondering if Kim Wilkinson would be willing to speak to how her dog got a therapy certified, because I know that was a senior project, and I was wondering if I could have her speak to the whole process that she went through to give me some idea, nothing else.
Kim, would you like to speak to that?
Oh, sorry, Karen.
I would have been more prepared.
My daughter Grace graduated last year. Part of the graduation requirement, she did do a senior project on, he's 3-year-old golden retriever, and he kind of had some qualities that would have made him a good therapy dog. She was in Miss Murray's class where Shiloh was, so they were talking and they came up with a project. Now it's her senior project. So I don't remember when she started, in the spring of whatever year. And it was sort of post-COVID too, so that was a little bit weird. But she met with a trainer, went through the training. He is certified through the Alliance of Therapy Dogs, and I can tell you it's not a, you go online, buy a thing. We sent the testing requirements, there's all kinds of different things, and granted, he's not a service dog, and the therapy dog training is not as rigorous as a service dog, because service dogs they're trained for specific things, and Charlie and Shiloh are trained for comfort, essentially. And they have to have certain mannerisms. They have to be okay, well, they have to mind, they have to follow directions, just the basic commands. They have to be on the leash, they have to be able to be touched. They have to be able to not freak out with loud noises or crashes. They have to be okay with food, be appropriate around people with food. There's a lot of different things, and honestly, it's a lot of the manner of the dog and just how they act.
About how long did it take?
Well, it depends, because you have to work with a trainer. So there's the testing process, and our trainer, the program we went through, he had to first be a canine being citizen through the AKC, so he'd be able to do all those things. And it's like the basic commands again, to come to call, sit, stay, down, all those. So that took a while. I don't remember the exact timeline. And then once that was complete, we had to do the therapy dog test, which was the actual test. The test was, a couple hours or whatever that was. And he had to be in a room by himself too, anyway. And then after that, he had to go through 3 observations. I think 2 of them were medical and 1 was like a public. So they went into a nursing home, a doctor's office, and then I don't remember what the public one was. So he was there, certified, did all that. And then for me to be trained, because we're a handler team, so my daughter's trained and I'm trained as well, so he had to go through the test again with me, and then I had to go through the observations as well. So he's been through it twice. I know that Shiloh is through Pet Partners, which is another well-known company or whatever. But the kids are missing them. And I understand, I get the legalities. But like Mr. Hodson kind of said before, and I know there's huge risks, but there's risks every day in school. A kid could do something horrible. And sometimes I feel like we have to weigh the good over the bad. Is there a possibility that it can happen? Of course, there always is, with anything. But I think in this circumstance, especially given the mental health needs of our students that we have. And I do agree, I think a program might be helpful. I don't know what that would look like, because Patty and I are both teachers as well. It's not like we can go into a room for an hour and say, okay, come have some therapy dog time, because we have our teaching as well. Right now, it's sort of, he's available during break and during terrier time at sometimes, depending on what we're doing, just walking up down the halls during class times. And then, on one occasion, the nurse prescribed, 10 minutes with Charlie for a student who's having issues. So it's when we need them, and then they're just kind of there. And then one time I was in the guidance office, I had to go down to do some stuff, and there was a student who was upset in there, and I have to have Charlie with me, and he just did his thing. And, it's not like a huge amount of time. It's truly not an abstraction. But that little chunk of time, the good that they do is huge. And for staff as well. We go throughout our days, and then you see them, and they're like, oh, it's little snippets of happiness and change throughout the day. And I know Patty has said that some kids come to school specifically to see the dogs. So, that's another thing too. So.
Kim, I have a great relationship with a dog that gets to go to work with its owner every day, and it is a therapy dog for everyone there. The only thing that was brought to the attention was make sure there's a place to put the dog if something's going on and the owner needs to not be around.
Yeah.
Do you have, I don't even know if this happens with therapy dogs, so, you know, you could tell me, no, we don't do that, but, so when the dogs are in school, this is just asking for a friend, do they have to have a kennel? Where you can put them if something is, like, if you've got a student in your room that's going off the wall and you need to have 100% attention, or you need help, or whatever is.
Well, one time that actually happened, we had a student, it was outside of my room, and the student was having an anxiety attack, a pretty bad one. And I ran out, and, you know, Charlie followed me, he was still within the thing, the length of whatever, but he was behind me, and I asked the student, you know, so anyway, I asked them if they wanted Charlie, and they said yes, and he kind of just laid down. So, I mean, we could do a kennel thing. There's no rules about that.
Does the dog have a leash on it all?
Yeah, he's
Oh,
a
okay.
harness.
All right,
And
that's.
a leash. And because they all have to have their tags.
I apologize. All I have heard is there's dogs running around school, so, and I'm just, you know, I think it's good to get this out, so I appreciate you talking to us, because we didn't prep you for this, but, I mean, I think that's good to know, and good for everybody to hear that, because
They're never left unattended. You know, I mean, I can't speak for Patty, but they're always with us.
thank you. I think other members have some questions. Thank you for your time. Priscilla?
Yes, what really surprises me with this is that we have a policy in effect that says that the superintendent or his designee can just, you know, have these animals in the school. And obviously our previous superintendent before the 1 year had to have approved the time before that, because these animals were here before that time. In addition to which, Mr. Haas brought us the procedures last time, and if you read through that, all of that is given over to the principal to make the decision. There is not any, he is the person that's making the decisions on these in the procedures, him or his designee. And he obviously vetted these animals, he looked at them. They were obviously under these conditions that we had set for them. And I think it just took for somebody to be getting, you know, things out of context and not seeing really what was going on. We could make this very difficult. Mr. Huss can go and find some other schools in some other places that might make this even more difficult procedure. But this is a small high school, medium size, where the animals were doing a lot of good. And I think we need to, as Kim said, look at the fact that they were doing more good than possible harm and risk, and consider getting them back there to help our students who have had 2 years of COVID-19 restrictions and definite mental health issues. So I think we need to do that as quickly as we can.
So I believe that Andy is trying to do that. Sorry, Andy, if I'm speaking for you, but, you know, that's where we are. I think that
I'm just urging him to do it as quickly as he can, because he can continue looking forever at different policies mine, but.
I'm gonna let Andy speak, and then Jason, you're up.
So, again, my concern and what I'm trying to relay to everyone is you could potentially lose your insurance if we don't have a written program. I will also say that I was never asked, I never gave Mr. Broadley any permission to be my designee, and I did not know anything about the dogs. And I will tell you, only one dog was in the building under Mr. Pratt. So I don't know what you're referring to, Priscilla, with all due respect, but it was never brought up to me. It was brought up to me also that dogs were running around the building during the school day, unleashed, and I've actually witnessed one of the dogs unleashed, walking around the classroom. So I'm hearing one thing about the way they're supposed to be acting, and I'm witnessing a completely different thing. So again, my responsibility is to protect the institution.
I don't disagree with having the dogs in the building, but I need to make sure that we're not gonna put ourselves in jeopardy, that we're gonna be on the other end, where we're all good friends until someone happens. Until you know, a student gets their face bit by a dog, and it can happen. It happened, my own dog bit my son. I watched it happen. My son wasn't doing anything. My dog was fully trained. And all of a sudden, he reached up and bit him, and I had to put the dog down. But, so, that is my concern. Again, it's not, I think it is a great idea. I just need to know what the intention is, and that we have intentionality, and that we have a vetted program of why we're bringing animals in. That's all.
I appreciate his concern, and Mr. Jones, I totally appreciate their due diligence on it. I'm just saying you brought this procedure to us that gave the principal all the authority to do this. So you know, we either need to change that or get it updated or do something, since you're the one who brought that to us.
We're gonna let Andy do his job.
And I would really appreciate getting those policies in so that maybe we can get those animals back to doing some good for our students.
Jason, you're up.
Thank you. So, Andy, you kind of answered the question, because I wanted to know how we got here, and then I wanted to know why it's taking so long. Because I believe this has been on the agenda for, I know at least 2 meetings, right? And I feel bad for Kim, because I know her. And,
About me, it's kids.
well, yeah, that's where I'm going next. And so I have 4 dogs. And they're pretty good. They're pretty good. Hold on. So we do have a policy that we passed in the fall, and Andy basically recited it about the designate, and I fully believe that he was not aware of it, and he's ultimately responsible for the building. And I really hate being a politician, because if it was up to me, I would do it in reverse. I would be like, okay, we got to do this correctly, so what's going to help us push it along? I fully believe what will help push it along is you let the dogs come back to school tomorrow, and then we push the policy quicker because we have to, right? Because we're concerned about safety. But we do things ass backwards all the time. And we're gonna make the kids suffer, the animals suffer, because they're like, hey mom, what did I do wrong? Why can't I go to work today? You know, I'm sure the dog lines up at the door like, hey, time to go to work. I'm getting in the back of the alley, and you know, I'm gonna race down the hill because I might be late today. You know, at the end of the day, it's always about the kids, you know, and it's also about following policy. You know, I feel bad that Andy was put in that position, you know, but we could fix it rather easily. So, you know, I have 4 dogs. Believe it or not, when I get home, they all jump on me and they want to play. You know, so Kim, as I told you, dogs are better than people sometimes. They really are. So dogs are great. So that's all I have to say. Let's fix this thing and let's do it right. Quickly. Thank you.
Deb, right, do you have your hand up?
Who, me? Did.
Go ahead.
I only want to just get back to the fact that it was a liability before, it's a liability now. The school has to protect itself, and there are concerns about dogs running around. As Andy said, he's seen them unsupervised in a public building. I mean, there are certainly leash laws in the state of Vermont, and we need to be aware of those at all times, especially when you have visitors to the building at any time during the week. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Kim.
everybody's comfortable with letting Andy finish up his work to get this going, I'd like to move on. Next item on the agenda is preparation of Bellas Falls Union High School annual meeting, which will be March 1st here. Okay.
Letting people know when it is.
All right, so I thought we'd already done this, and we have. So we have done everything we need to get our warrants out and get the articles ready for town meeting day to vote. And this was just a reminder to everyone that we will be here on March 1st. There's really nothing, well, I shouldn't say that, very important to come see what we do. But everything gets voted on Australian ballot this year. The state did something different where everything has to be an article. They did that because of the way COVID was, and they were afraid people weren't going out to meetings, out to public. So all the articles are actually being voted on when you go to town meeting. We used to vote on a few of the things here on the floor, but nothing, to my knowledge, is gonna get voted on the floor. It's all on your ballot when you go to your town halls and wherever your polls are done. That's where you'll vote on the budgets, the bonds, and there's some money going back into the budget, there's some money going into some funds so that we have some money to work on repairs and maintenance for the building. But you're more than welcome to come join us on March 1st.
Molly, have a question?
Yes, David?
John and I are sharing this mic. My question, Molly, is does the board need to sign the warrant?
I don't know the real answer to that. They asked me to come sign it, and I signed it as the chair, and if, I don't know that. I'll have to find out tomorrow if you think we are supposed to. I don't know that answer. But I will find out.
And Molly, make it very, I'm going to make a presumption here that the board could direct the chair to sign on behalf of the board. So we've already signed it. And if there's any question about that, I think we could probably ratify that when we meet on the 28th, 29th.
27th.
27th. 27th.
Can you put that on the agenda?
Molly, I had a question.
Yes,
What
Mark?
is the start time?
I think that one is 7, because it's an annual thing that we couldn't change the time on.
That's
But-
March 1st.
Excuse me?
March 1st.
It's 7 o'clock.
Yeah. 27th, it's 6:30.
27th is a different meeting.
Okay, I think we're all set, and we have some folks here that are gonna present for financial literacy. Tim, is that you? Yep, looks like it's Tim. We'll get your mic, Tim, thank you.
So hello everyone, I'm Tim Clark, I'm a math teacher. First I want to caution you, I can ramble with the best of them, and I primarily want to answer your questions about the financial literacy course in the curriculum. I've given you a packet which I'll skim at the right time, but is there any guidance from any of you about what you would like to hear tonight? Because I can start talking about the curriculum and where it's come from. And okay, thanks. Go ahead, Mr. Clark.
In fact, Tim, I would appreciate your overview. However, I have to tell you, when we get a document which is 10, 12, 14 pages long, it's a huge help, at least to this board member, if I can see it ahead of the meeting so I have enough time to read it, digest it, and be able to ask you what I think are pertinent questions. This is not a criticism of Tim Clark. It's a criticism of the administrative way of handling its boards, where all too often we're asked to make critical decisions based on insufficient information. And of course, I'm, been a big loud noise about when are we going to start talking about financial literacy curriculum here for probably about a year. Tonight's the night. I'm really eager to hear from you, but I think that after I read this, I may have questions that aren't going to come up tonight. It would come up after I read it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Should I just start? Okay.
Yes,
so this is the second year that we're teaching a financial literacy course as such in the math department. There's a background to financial literacy in the school. I'm not the long-term expert on that history, but have a sense of what it is, and it's kind of tied into a class that used to be called Math Applications, and that was a course after algebra and geometry for some students to either get more into those topics with some sort of life application to them, specifically with financial literacy included in that, among other things. Financial literacy is a huge movement these days, and Vermont is one of the leaders in that area, to be frank about it. And we're lucky because it's such an important issue. The motivation to have it here was last year when Sean Murphy was assistant principal. He had been the teacher handling math apps over the years. Other teachers have worked financial literacy concepts into their courses, whether it's in the math department or social studies or what have you. A lot of the faculty have participated in Champlain College's institutes over the years. It's like a week program in the summer. You get graduate credits and certification to teach financial literacy topics. I did that course last summer, which was like after a 2-year delay because of COVID. And so the curriculum we use is provided by Next Gen Personal Finance. This is a philanthropic organization that assembles and publishes this curriculum. The first 2 pages in my handout are essentially an overview. My understanding is that those 2 pages have been provided to the board before. And so the rest of this is just background about, well, why use this curriculum? The curriculum's available online, it's on the website, it's the link, it's right there. I know that these 2 pages have been out here for a couple months. I hope you've had a chance to go to the website and check it out. The sort of why this curriculum, it's comprehensive, it's specifically by name embedded into the standards in financial literacy that the Agency of Education has adopted in Vermont. That's in the document as well. I can point that out to you later. And most importantly, as a teacher, this curriculum it's aligned to the standards that the state requires. There is complete integration into our Google environment with this, and because of that, it's really engaging for the kids. It's a multimedia curriculum, articles, videos, games, worksheets, spreadsheets. It's all there, it's ready to go. I didn't come up with this on my own. Actually, two people that I consider mentors and colleagues, Sean Murphy and Chris Hodgson, both familiar with this and use it extensively, and it's the #1 program in the country right now for financial literacy. I could go through the table of contents. I think you have those in front of you, and I don't want to ramble on. So I guess I can pause with that introduction, ask for any questions you might have at this time, and see if there's anything else you want me to talk about. Yep?
Yep, David Clark?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. As I think you may be aware, Tim, when we've had these discussions in the Haver Committee, one of the more active participants has been Mike Stack, recently returned to the area after a long career in finance. Mike made strong advocacy in those meetings that you have a number of people in the community who may be able to very substantially contribute to a financial literacy curriculum, and not only just contribute to a financial literacy curriculum for high school kids, but might actually be able to expand the offering to include members of this community. And there are certainly a lot of them here, probably beginning with me, who could use that kind of instruction. Has your curriculum, as it's developed, considered using these community resources?
Actually, I came up with that plan last year, and I've had emails with John and Mike, and I've made it clear I'll reach out when I've finalized my timeline for this spring. I do intend to get bankers and retirement counselors and auto salesmen and other professionals to come in, and whether it's Mike Stack or me reaching out, that's a great idea. So I see that happening.
I would like to follow it up with you just a little bit more, Tim, because sales is kind of a key word. We don't think about selling this school within our community. And, you know, to give credit where credit is due, a number of years ago, Principal Hodgson actually had a community book reading session where we would have the author come in, we'd sit in this room and discuss the book. And I think that those are the kind of community builders which are hugely important when you're trying to sell this school in the community, which is likely to see, shall we say, increasingly tight resources as time goes on. And one of the ways that you convince people that Bellows Falls Union High School is a good investment is by bringing them into this room and strutting our stuff. So I really hope that financial literacy will be more than just teaching high school juniors and seniors.
Well, I'm a math teacher, and I'm going to be teaching juniors and seniors. If you have a team ready to go on all of that, go for it. I'll be happy to participate, but I'm focused on teaching the kids. This is a second year in the startup class. It went well last year. It's getting off to a good start now, so I'm focused on the classroom right now. Mr. Clark, expanding beyond that's not on my plate right now, and I feel like it's a great idea, though. I agree with you. The literature that I've given you talks about how, if you dig into it or go on to the site, a lot of things that the kids learn trickles up to their families at home, and it builds stronger knowledge and financial literacy in the households. Exposing the kids in school actually ends up helping the families oftentimes. So I don't doubt what you're saying. Sounds like a great idea. I'm just a classroom teacher. That's what I'm here to talk about tonight. So, anyone have any questions about? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. I just want to thank you for taking on this project. Do you have a handout for the audience in case they're interested in what this is, or how can they?
I could get names and emails and send them some information if they want to talk to me when I'm done. No problem.
I just want to make sure that people aren't getting lost in it, because when you say financial literacy, it could mean something different to everyone else. But I really think that this is a blessing, especially in a rural community that we have in Bellows Falls, where not everyone is going to possibly go on to college. And you know, sometimes they say college is the end-all be-all, and it's not. No. Not at all. You know, so I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Keep moving forward, and if there's anything we can do to support you, please let us know.
Thanks, appreciate that. Anyone else? Yep. Mr. Clark?
I'm letting you off the hook this time, Kim, because this is a John Broadley question. One of the notions that's been floated along with financial literacy is that we make it a graduation requirement. Fellows Falls Union High School currently requires 28 credits to graduate. I believe that the State Board of Education requires 21. And I can tell you from direct experience of many years as a Tech Center board member, both in Brattleboro and the last 20 years or so in Springfield at RVTC, that just occasionally those 28 credits get in the way of the kid accessing technical education. When you go to 29, you have just increased your barrier by another, I'm not a math teacher, but I'll bet you it's around 7% maybe. So if we are serious about, and this is a John Broadley question, not a Tim Clark question, if we are serious about having financial literacy being a required credit-bearing course, where's the flex going to come? What are those 28 credits are we going to drop in order to accommodate it? And that is a question I've been asking for quite some time. So tonight it's just a rhetorical question, but I will make the point that this guy here, at least, has been talking about when we're going to have this discussion about developing the curriculum. And I will say to administration, and I'm not picking on John, because the guy at the top owns it, I'm disappointed that while this curriculum was being developed, that your board was frozen out on the workings of it.
Jim,
Thanks, Mr. Clark. Both Mr. Clarks, actually. So, I guess semantics got in the way of this. When I first mentioned it would maybe be a good idea to have it as a graduation requirement, some jumped on that, oh, we're making it a graduation requirement. There's a lot of work that needs to get done, a lot of conversation before we even would propose it as a graduation requirement. We're not there yet, but I think it would be good. There's also not a necessity to axe a credit or add a credit. It could still be part of our math credits, and that's just off the top of my head. Again, we're not there yet to decide on that. But I think once we teach it a little bit more and we get a few more kid testimonials, which today I've had 3 of them, and the kids love it. They love Mr. Clark, the way he does it, and they're actually, one of the students has everything you can think of, the 403B, he's got money invested in the stock market, he's got his own credit card, he's building his own credit, he's going to buy his house. You know, so there's a lot of good stuff, and this particular student is one who I was surprised, but he was doing cartwheels around what Mr. Clark taught and the effectiveness of actually digesting all the material. And, you know, we need more kids like him to get the experience of it and then go out and start learning it and doing it. You know?
I'll say 2 things. First, the student, yeah, he came to me in the hallway randomly and told me these things. He got his dad to co-sign with him on a credit card and opened an IRA, put money in a Roth, and planning for his job that he's pretty well got lined up after high school with a 401k and some employer matching, and he's familiar with all these ideas and concepts, and he's gung-ho about them because of our class. And I've known this kid since he was a freshman, and yeah, it was like a light bulb for him. So that happens to some kids. They often ask math teachers, when are we ever going to use this? And every day they're reading and watching and listening to things they're going to use this for. And they've heard people talking about it at home all the time. The last thing I'll say is about the graduation requirement. The state may be there before we get there. on the graduation requirement. Part of the materials are a survey that just came out this January 2023 from Champlain, where over 90% of Vermonters in a good cross-section poll support financial literacy as a course in high school at least, if not as a graduation requirement. So there's discussions going on in legislative areas about these possibilities. What the timeline is, I don't know, but it's a wave, that's for sure. So anyways, Molly, did you have?
I did, thank you. So I have heard financial literacy for probably the past 14 or 15 months. Every time there's an agenda, we want on the agenda. I think I hoped I knew what it was, but until just browsing through your packet and seeing it, I didn't know what it was, but you know, everybody could have different ideas what it is. So I have to just commend you, because this car buy project, I think I had to do it when I was 16 years old and wanted to buy a car because my dad was a dairy farmer, but he was about the smartest dude with numbers I've ever met and was very successful. And I'm pretty sure I had to answer all these questions and prove to him that I knew what I was doing and I could afford it before I was able to do it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm a lucky person. I had a dad that sat down at the table and taught us that. And there's a lot of kids that, you know, their parents are working 2-3 jobs, they don't have time. You know, maybe they don't know to ask these questions. But this is, so with all the conversations I've heard about financial literacy and you know, all the not so positive comments I've heard about it, this right here is awesome. And if every kid sees this, and even if they don't grasp it, if they throw it in their backpack and then take it out in 6 months when they're supposed to empty their backpack and see it again, this is what, as a community member, as a stakeholder in the game, I'm trying to hire people every day. And this is real good stuff, so thank you very much.
Well, I give credit to Sean Murphy and Mr. Hodgson and those guys for.
Well, take some credit yourself too. That's some good stuff right there.
I'm the lucky guy that gets to pilot it, so it's been fun, that's for sure.
Thank you. June?
Hi, I'm June Streeter. I love the idea of this, and I would actually like to do an offspring of this and have like an English where you make a resume, you do interviews, you process that. And speaking of a parent of 6, 4 have graduated from this school already and 2 are currently here, I'd love to replace the senior project with this.
Priscilla?
Yeah, it just adds to such a broad base because you've got taxes, you've got loans, you've got all kinds of financial things that kids are going to face, whether at all levels of ability and all levels that they're looking for. And yes, financial literacy is the new term. We had math apps. Before that, we had business math that addressed those kinds of things. And just, you know, and I guess a lot of people in the community don't realize how much that was incorporated into math and into all the skills that you develop. But that math literacy, numbers with 4 math credits, can certainly be a course within that program that is specific. For example, we definitely ask for algebra and those beginning type courses, algebra, geometry, you know, those. So if we put financial literacy as one of the requirements, it certainly can fit in and not expand our credits. But with 8 classes a day, we certainly have room for more than 28 credits in the years, and that would give us 32 easily. My daughter graduated with 33.
If they're successful.
Yeah.
That's pretty tough when they want to go to the tech.
I'll just comment quickly. this course can be a fourth math credit for kids. It's, in addition to the main content for the semester course, NGPF has a new course that's finally been completely developed this past year. It's financial algebra, and it's aligned to and integrated directly with these contents you're looking at. I know Chris uses it down in Brattleboro a lot. We were talking about that, and it totally legitimizes the math credit prospects for this class for people that need that as a math credit. But otherwise, it's a great elective as well right now.
Tim, I think you've done a good job at helping us understand what financial literacy is, and I'm gonna...
Go to ngpf.org, go to the Champlain College Center for Financial Literacy website. All the press releases and all of the curriculum are there. Thanks.
Thank you. Andy, I think this is you, but I'd like to move on to a proposal from Stevens and Associates for the topographical survey.
I was actually asked Mr. Broadley if he could speak to that. It was nothing I was aware of. It showed up on my desk on Friday afternoon asking me to sign, and I don't know what the purpose is. Well, I know what the purpose is for the driveway, but what we're trying to do.
John, can you help us?
Yeah, no worries. Well, it began, Jim DeBell, before he had moved on, had a lot of contact with Stevens around really gaining information towards the driveway project, the increased cost after COVID, because we did have it on, 4 years ago, I believe, and for some mishap, we never got it done. He had done a lot of the legwork, and then of course when Jim moved on, Stevens had contacted me just to say, you know, were we still doing a bond, etc. We had a communication around that. And what they pointed out was that as we're not doing the bond until March, that if we did want to get it started this summer, that it may be in our best interest to have this topographic survey done. It's where they, I believe, they dig into some of the road and test the depth of it and whatever. I couldn't tell you, you'd have to ask them exactly what it was. But the notion was to get it done before, so that we'd be in a good place to maybe start this summer. Now, I have, you know, it'd be nice to get it done, but it wasn't a have to do. And I did email Andy and Jim, I think it was the 2nd of January, with regard to what we're talking about now. And then I talked to Molly a little bit later, and there wasn't, through no response. And, you know, Molly was, I can't remember exactly when we talked about it, Molly, but it was like, no, let's just wait till we get the bond through. So it wasn't really, I don't know why it turned up necessarily on your desk, Andy. But
I don't know either, John, and I guess my question is, I don't know who was going to be paying or where we were going to get $10,000
right
to pay for it, and then the second one, which is $135,000. And my concern is this an exclusionary? Because any project that is over $500,000 has to go out for a special bid process. There is no such thing as a grandfather clause. And so if we were to spend this $10,000, are they going to then give us this stuff and join a bid process for the next $135,000, which has to go out to bid?
Well,
Can I just, sorry guys, but
no, it's fine.
this conversation can't even happen. It can happen, you're not really talking, but John, I'm sure what I told you was, because I remember it was right up there, is the bonds need to be approved before we spend any money. Exactly. So I'm very much for getting these projects going, but We gotta stop. Please don't sign anything, don't ask anybody to do anything. We can't do anything until the town meeting day. And if the people vote to let us have the bonds and do some repairs in school, then we'll put this back on the agenda and get it out to bid and get it going. Thank you, gentlemen.
No, that sounds good. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda.
Wait.
I'm sorry, Jim, but there's really not a lot of discussion on this.
No, before we move off Andy, because
Well, he's not leaving.
I'm assuming Andy's, been this whole 7 section. I just have a question about his, superintendent's report.
So we didn't.
So we knew that there was a wicked long meeting going on, so the superintendent report is on the website like it always is, and we didn't ask him to present tonight.
Okay.
If
I'll
you
send
need
him
him
an
to.
email.
Okay. Yeah, Wednesday night, we'll be back here and we will have his superintendent report. Next item on the agenda is River Charities donation.
John, you want this, or Jake? Go.
No, I can speak to that. Annually, we get this donation from River Charities. It's a local charity that they'd like us to use the contribution towards our sports programs and sports activities. There was a letter sent by their attorney or representative, Mr. Slazin, as he always does. We didn't have anything right away that there was a need to go and spend it on. So again, the check goes over to the business office. We sent it over, and just really making the board aware. And then I would say if there's something that turns up that we need to spend it on, that is substantial, we'll come back and check in.
So my understanding is the board needs to accept this donation, and if I can.
Yes, please.
So I have a letter here that says, our office represents River Charities Incorporated. Enclosed, please find our client's check in the amount of $4,000 payable to the Bellas Falls Union High School, representing its contributions in support of the sports activities. Just to be clear, because somebody's going to ask this, we cannot. That goes into the budget, and we ask the school to spend it on sports activities. It could be anything. It could be a team needs something. It could be, I've heard forever that the press box is disgusting. I've never had the pleasure of going up there and seeing it. You know, there's a lot of things that, you know, aren't in our budget. So I need a motion to accept this donation. And before we move on, I'd just like to publicly thank River Charities. They've been very good to the school.
Molly, I'll make that motion to accept the River Charities donation for $4,000 for sports activities.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Let's have a vote. Margot?
Aye.
Jason?
Yes.
June?
Yes.
Priscilla?
Yes.
Deb Wright?
Aye.
David Clark?
Yes.
Brenda?
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. I would like to move on to director's comments, which isn't next, but next is executive session. And I would like to do our director's comments. There will be no action taken in executive session, and then we can go into executive session before we go home. Director's comments. My list is a little funky because it's the way I got you written down, so I'm going to start with Margot.
Not doing my job.
That's okay. So I guess I just wanted to mention, and we don't have much of an audience left in the room, but but maybe online or people can share it. This is going out to all Rockingham residents. On the ballot coming up, there are 2 positions that are on the ballot for the Bellows Falls Union High School Board. The 2-year position does have 1 person that is going to be on the ballot. The 3-year position does not have a name associated with the ballot. There can always be write-in candidates for either position, and I encourage people who have been considering or wondering, want to try to be on the board, that being a write-in candidate is a great way to try to obtain one of those 2 positions. Now, the other thing is that I had given I am stepping down from the board, and that did not make it onto the ballot. So there is a 1 year remaining on a 2-year term that is not on the ballot, and people can submit a letter of interest to the board, I'm assuming to Molly, and then express their interest in that position. So if you know of Rockingham residents that are interested, I highly encourage you to share this with them and encourage them to run.
Jason.
Thank you, Molly. Margo, I'd just like to say thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure getting to know you. I know we'll be at a few more meetings before it's all said and done. The room is cleared out pretty substantial. There's 1 individual here. And, you know, being on his board, you know, and especially in a small town where you know everybody and probably gonna go to Shaw's and probably gonna see somebody, or thank God I got off Facebook 6 months ago. But at the end of the day, you're just trying to be consistent and you're trying to gather all the facts, and you really have to take the emotions out of it. And I try to do that in my day-to-day work life. And it's not really about emotions, it's just about facts for me. I'm a very measured individual where, you know, if you're gonna say you're gonna do something, do it, or don't do it, one or the other. Thank you, Molly.
Thank you. June. June.
I'd just like to caution the keyboard warriors out there to make sure that they know who's on the board. I've seen several posts on social media that says that the board does not support any school programs or the Booster Club. Well, I'd like to say, my name's June Streeter. I have 6 kids. I have 4 of them have graduated from here already, and I have 2 in school currently. I attend sports events year-round. I love the plays, and I'm a member of the Booster Club. And I also do not have a personal agenda being on this board. I want to give the best education to all of the kids, and I want the staffs and the teachers to be held accountable. We have some very good teachers in this building, and I guess I just want to be here to make improvements that will benefit the school and the students, and I want to wish the good luck to the freshman and sophomore classes during this Winter Carnival week. Thank you.
Priscilla.
Yes, I just wanted to say that I appreciate all the ideas that each one of my colleagues on this board brings to it. I appreciate the fact that our principal and our superintendent work so hard to diligently look out for our students and be responsible for them. In addition, I didn't have policy reports on here this time, so please be sure that all the board members look for policy E1, Part A, parent and family engagement, which should have just been posted to the website as that was approved at our last policy meeting through consensus by the members, and will be on a future agenda for our boards to approve. So if you can look for that, that would be good at this time. Just keep remembering to be kind to people. There's a lot of anger out there. There's a lot of bad things that do happen in our world. There's a student, just this last week, that we heard of in one of our things across the country that was hurt at school and went home, and bad things happened. So just be kind to your student. Be sure that they know they're loved. Support them all you can, and realize that your school and your teachers and your administrators are doing all they can to keep them safe, and let them know how much we all care about them. Thank you.
Deb Wright?
Yes, simply that if you're going to run for office, and we do have some openings on the high school board, a couple of openings, as Margaret already mentioned, make sure that if you want to do that, for those of you out there who are interested in the board, that you have the time to commit to do the homework and to turn up for the meetings, whether in person or visual or virtually, and making sure that you study the material and understand what you're doing and ask questions when you don't. That's it. Thank you.
David Clark?
Thanks, Molly. I think I've already figured it out pretty well tonight, so I can pass.
Brenda?
Yes, thank you. You got to get really close to getting kind. I just wanted to say it's been a pleasure to be on the board for several years, and I would be one of those people looking to be a write-in because mine has expired, and so it's a pleasure to work with the group here. And I do recognize the administration, the staff, and the board members. There's a balancing act between all of them, but we are here to represent the community, and we do also enjoy hearing and need to hear the feedback, so thank you.
So I only put one kid through this school. She's a senior in college this year. Facebook is Facebook, but I think I go to a lot of basketball games and football games and baseball games. I don't even know why I go to baseball, but I think it's because somebody tells me I should. I was a terrier dog for several years, been on this board for a long time. I'm very proud of being able to be part of this school and part of this process. We don't have people come to the board meetings very often, and even though maybe sometimes what they say, it doesn't feel good when you see it, all over the social media, but the truth is that, some of them have shown up and have tried to, voice their opinions. It was very professional. I thought that every question was a good question and all their comments were good. And, sometimes when you go to when you come to these meetings and you got all day to think about it, and you think, how are you gonna respond if it starts getting ugly? But I don't have to worry about that because the public has been very, very good. And I appreciate them all coming in and expressing their opinions because it's all important. Thank you very much. I'm gonna move to date of next meeting. We just set to be February 27th at 6:30 here at the high school, and we're only gonna put one thing on the agenda. We said we were only gonna put one thing. Now we're gonna put two, we're gonna put a policy on there.
Your ratification for your warrants. You asked me to put that.
Okay, so we're gonna have ratification of warrants, that's good. And we're gonna put,
You should have policy.
principal search.
And policy, it'll be real quick.
Policy will be okay. We're gonna really keep this as clean as we can. It's an extra meeting. So I'm not going to adjourn. I'm going to ask for a motion to go into executive session for a student matter and a personnel matter.
I would make a motion to enter into executive session at 8:35 to discuss a student and personnel matter where premature public knowledge could place the board and/or individuals at a disadvantage, and invite the administration.
And just to be clear, there will be no action when we come out. No action is being taken. All those in favor of going to executive session, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We will meet in the fishbowl. Thank you, everyone.
Deb, I may have to kick you off and then you can rejoin.
I
Can you do
know,
that?
I can do that, yes.
Thanks.
Uh-huh.